Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya Statirasata Shri Shiva Jagat Guru Siddhaswarupa Nanda Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya Statirasata Shri Shiva. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganges Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur's World Mission Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga Gaur Premananda. Om Ganatimarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshulunmilitam Jena Tajmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual masters have opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto them. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter at his lotus feet? Today we'll be reading from the 8th Canto of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Mohinī-mūrti bewilders Lord Shiva. Sukadeva Goswami said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, in the form of a woman, captivated the demons and enabled the demigods to drink the nectar. After hearing of these pastimes, Lord Shiva, who is carried by a bull, went to the place where Madhusudan, the Lord, resides. Accompanied by his wife Uma and surrounded by his companions, the ghost, Lord Shiva went there to see the Lord's form as a woman. The Supreme Personality of Godhead welcomed Lord Shiva and Uma with great respect. And, after being seated comfortably, Lord Shiva duly worshipped the Lord and smilingly spoke as follows. Lord Mahadev said, O chief demigod among the demigods, O all-pervading Lord, Master of the universe, by your energy you are transformed into the creation. You are the root and efficient cause of everything. You are not material. Indeed, you are the supersoul, or supreme living force of everything. Therefore you are Parameshvara, the supreme controller of all controllers. Purport by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, resides within the material world as the Sattva Guna avatar. Lord Shiva is the Tamaguna avatar, and Lord Brahma is the Rajaguna avatar. But, although Lord Vishnu is among them, he is not in the same category. Lord Vishnu is Deva Deva, the chief of all the demigods. Since Lord Shiva is in this material world, the energy of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu includes Lord Shiva. Lord Vishnu is therefore called Jagadvipi, or the all-pervading Lord. Lord Shiva is sometimes called Maheshvara, and so people think that Lord Shiva is everything. But here, Lord Shiva addresses Lord Vishnu as Jagadisha, the master of the universe. Lord Shiva is sometimes called Vishveshvara, but here he addresses Lord Vishnu as Jaganmaya, indicating that even Vivishvara is under Lord Vishnu's control. Lord Vishnu is the master of the spiritual world, yet he controls the material world also, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sa chara charam. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are sometimes called Ishvara, but the supreme Ishvara is Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna. The Supreme Lord is Krishna. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Lord is, the Supreme Ishvara is Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna. The Supreme Lord is Krishna, Lord Vishnu. Everything in existence works in proper order because Lord Vishnu. Andantara Sheshta Paramo Chanara Tarashtam. Even Paramanu, the small atoms, work because of Lord Vishnu's presence within them. Text 5. The manifest, the unmanifest, false ego, and the beginning, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation all come from you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because you are the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Absolute Spirit Soul, the Supreme Brahman, such changes as birth, death, and sustenance do not exist in you. Report. According to Vedic mantras, Yato vai inani bhutani jayante. Everything is an emanation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 7:4, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. In other words, the ingredients of the cosmic manifestation also consist of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This does not mean, however, that because the ingredients come from him, he is no longer complete. Purnashya Purnam Adaya Purnam Ivavashyate. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Thus the Lord is called Avyaya, inexhaustible. Unless we accept the absolute truth as Achintya Beta Beta, simultaneously one and different, we cannot have a clear conception of the absolute truth. The Lord is the root of everything. Aham Madir Hi Devanam. He is the original cause of all the devas or demigods. Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Everything emanates from him. In all cases, nominative, objective, positive, negative, and so on, whatever we may conceive of in this cosmic manifestation is in fact the Supreme Lord. For him, there are no such distinctions as this is mine and this belongs to someone else, because he is everything. He is therefore called Avyaya, changeless and inexhaustible. Because the Supreme Lord is Avyaya, he is the absolute truth, the fully spiritual Supreme Brahman. This is a concept that a lot of people actually struggle with in the beginning. The false ego is so strong in the material realm that it's practically speaking inconceivable to us that we are simply an energy of something else. We feel like, due to the false ego, that we're complete individual living entities. And it's true in the sense that we do have free will. And this free will allows us to choose to either serve or not serve Krishna. But that doesn't make us supremely independent. We are all just the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we speak of Krishna, we speak of everything. Krishna is the source of everything. Therefore, everything is a subset of Krishna. Therefore, we are nothing but the parts and parcels of Krishna. We cannot exist separately from Krishna. It is only due to Krishna's kindness and mercy that he allows us to be in the illusion that we can exist independently and separate from him. And this is the disease of material nature. This is the ahankara, the false ego that makes us think that we're different. Text 6. Pure devotees or great saintly persons who desire to achieve the highest goal in life and who are completely free from all material desires for sense gratification engage constantly in the transcendental service of your lotus feet. Report. One is in the material world when he thinks, I am this body, and everything with reference to this body is mine. Ato griha kshetra stupata vitar ganasa mahohayam aham mameti. This is the symptom of material life. In the materialistic conception of life, one thinks, this is my house, this is my land, this is my family, this is my state, and so on. But those who are munaya, saintly persons, following in the footsteps of Narada Muni, simply engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without any personal desire for sense gratification. Anyabilashita sunyam janma karmari anavritam. Either in this life or in the next, the only concern of such saintly persons is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, they are also absolute, because they have no other desires. Being freed from the dualities of material desire, they are called seyas kama. In other words, they are not concerned with dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, or kama, sense gratification. The only concern of such devotees is moksha, liberation. This moksha does not refer to becoming one with the Supreme, like the Mayavadi philosophers. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that real moksha means taking shelter at the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. The Lord clearly explained this fact while instructing Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wanted to correct the word mukti pade in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed him that there is no need to correct any word in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He explained that mukti pade refers to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who offers mukti and is therefore called Mukunda. A pure devotee is not concerned with the material things. He is not concerned with religiosity, economic development, or sense gratification. He is interested only in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is the very concise definition of the material world. One is in the material world when he thinks, I am this body, and everything in reference to this body is mine. So conversely, the opposite is true. As soon as one realizes that I am not this body, and everything in relation to this body is actually Krishna's or Vishnu's, then one is immediately in the spiritual consciousness and therefore in the spiritual world. The material world, although it is a physical location, right? It's considered, if you remember the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam first canto, it was explained that there's this entire ever-expanding universe of the spiritual sky. And in one corner of the spiritual sky is the Mahatattva, in which the material world is existing. And Karna-Dakshai Vishnu is there, then he makes the Karna ocean, then he expands himself as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and from him comes the planets, then he enters those universes rather as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So even though it's a physical location within the realm of the spiritual energy, at the same time, spiritual energy transcends material considerations like time and space. So even though the spiritual world is considered to be extremely far away, it's also as close or closer, as Prabhupada puts it, than your very breath. As soon as we become aware of Krishna and aware of Krishna's position, then we're elevated to the spiritual platform. And we're, technically speaking, no longer in the material realm. Text 7. My Lord, you are the Supreme Brahman, complete in everything. Being completely spiritual, you are eternal, free from the material modes of nature, and full of transcendental bliss. Indeed, for you there is no question of lamentation, since you are Since you are the supreme cause, the cause of all causes, nothing can exist without you. Yet, we are different from you in a relationship of cause and effect. For in one sense, the cause and effect are different. You are the original cause of creation, manifestation, and annihilation, and you bestow benedictions upon all living entities. Everyone depends upon you for the results of his activities, but you are always independent. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says in Bhagavad Gita 9:4, by me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. This explains the philosophy of simultaneous oneness and difference, known as Achimta Bheda Bheda. Everything is the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet the Supreme Person is differently situated from everything. Indeed, because the Lord is differently situated from everything material, he is the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Cause, the Supreme Controller. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The Lord is the Supreme Cause, and his form has nothing to do with the material modes of nature. The devotee prays, as your devotee is completely free from all desires, your lordship is also completely free from desires. You are fully independent. Although all living entities engage in your service, you do not depend on the service of anyone. Although this material world is created complete by you, everything depends on your sanction. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Matasmitim Jnana Apanoham Cha. Remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness come from you. Nothing can be done independently, yet you act independently of the service rendered by your servants. The living entities depend on your mercy for liberation, but when you want to give them liberation, you do not depend on anyone else. Indeed, by your causeless mercy, you can give liberation to anyone. Those who revive your mercy are called Kripa Siddha. Those who receive your mercy are called Kripa Siddha. To reach the platform of perfection takes many, many lives. Bahunam janmanam mante, jananam mam prapadyate. Nonetheless, even without undergoing severe austerities, one can attain perfection by your mercy. Devotional service should be unmotivated and free from impediments. Ahai tuki apahita tata yamatma suprajashati. This is the position of nirashisha, or freedom from expectations for results. A pure devotee continuously offers transcendental loving service to you, but you may nonetheless offer mercy to anyone without depending on his service. So do you follow that? It's all clear? Krishna is the supreme independent. He's not dependent on the service of his devotees for anything. He's not even dependent on the service of his devotees to give them liberation. You can be the greatest rascal. You can be the most illusioned, conditioned spirit soul out there. And Krishna, by his causeless mercy, can immediately liberate you and bring you to full consciousness and have you fully situated in your spiritual relationship with him through his causeless mercy. He's not dependent on anything or anyone for anything. And this is what makes him able to be the unconditional lover of everyone. Because he doesn't need anyone, need anything from anyone. He has no desires to be fulfilled from someone. Therefore, he can love unconditionally. Now, it's stated in here that Krishna has no desire. Yet we hear from our spiritual master that Krishna very much desires that we return back to him in the spiritual world and engage in his loving service. So how is this possible? That he has no desires, yet he has this desire. This is one of the faith, huh?
Well, I thought one meaning of it anyway was that he's free from all material desires.
Yes, that's part of the end. Yeah. Just as when it says that Krishna has no desires, it means he has no material desires. But when it says that he has no form, it means he has no no material form. But there are transcendental spiritual desires. So what you're saying is correct here. And the difference between a material desire and a spiritual desire is that a material desire is the desire independently of Krishna's desire. So if it's Krishna's desire, it's not independent of Krishna's desire, therefore it cannot be a material desire by definition. We're only on text 8. My dear Lord, your lordship alone is the cause and the effect. Therefore, although you appear to be two, you're the absolute one. As there is no difference between the gold of a golden ornament and the gold in a mine, there is no difference between the cause and the effect. Both of them are the same. Only because of ignorance do people concoct differences and dualities. You are free from material contaminations, and since the entire cosmos is caused by you and cannot exist without you, it is an effect of your transcendental qualities. Thus, the conception that Brahman is true and the world false cannot be maintained. So the Mayavadi philosophers say that this world is false, and that only the Brahman effulgence is true. But the Vaishnava devotees who understand the Chinta Bheda Bheda Tattva understand that this is not the case. That because Krishna is the source of everything, this world is one of his material energies, therefore it can't be false, because Krishna is absolute. And he is true, and therefore it can't be false. But it's because it's only temporarily manifest, it's considered in one sense to be false. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the living entities are representations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's marginal potency, whereas the various bodies accepted by the living entities are products of the material energy. Thus, the body is considered material, and the soul is considered spiritual. The origin of them both, however, is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord explains in Bhagavad Gita 7:4-5. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. But besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mine, which consists of all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. Thus, both matter and the living entities are manifestations of energy of the Supreme Lord. Since the energy and the energetic are not different, and since the material and marginal energies are both energies of the Supreme Energetic, the Supreme Lord, ultimately, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is everything. In this regard, the example may be given of gold that has not been molded and gold that has been molded into various ornaments. A gold earring and the gold in the mine are different only as a cause and effect. Otherwise, they are the same. The Vedanta Sutra describes that Brahman is the cause of everything. Janmari asya yata. Everything is born of the Supreme Brahman, from which everything emanates as different energies. None of these energies, however, should be considered false. The Mayavadi's differentiation between Brahman and Maya is only due to ignorance. Sripad Vairarahaga Acharya, in his Bhagavat Chandra Chandrika, describes the Vaishnava philosophy as follows. The cosmic manifestation is described as Sat and Asat, as Chit and Achit. Matter is Achit, and the living entity is Chit, but their origin is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in whom there is no difference between matter and spirit. According to this conception, the cosmic manifestation, consisting of both matter and spirit, is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Idam hi visham bhagavam itara. This cosmic manifestation is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although it appears different from him. In Bhagavad Gita 9:4, the Lord says, "By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them." Thus, although someone may say that the Supreme Person is different from the cosmic manifestation, actually he is not. The Lord says, "Maya tatam idam sarvam." In my impersonal feature, I am spread throughout the world. Therefore, this world is not different from him. The difference is a difference in names. For example, whether we speak of gold earrings, gold bangles, or gold necklaces, ultimately they are all gold. In a similar way, all the different manifestations of matter and spirit are ultimately one in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ekam eva vrittayam Brahma. This is the Vedic version. Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.1. There is oneness because everything emanates from the Supreme Brahman. The example already given is that there is no difference between a golden earring and the gold mine as it is. The Vaivashika philosophers, however, because of their Mayavadi conception, create differences. They say, Brahma Sattvam Jagam Mitya, the absolute truth is real, and the cosmic manifestation is false. But why should the Jagat be considered Mitya? The Jagat is an emanation from Brahman. Therefore, the Jagat is also truth. Vaishnavas, therefore, do not consider the Jagat to be mitra. Rather, they regard everything as reality in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Things should be accepted for the Lord's service and not for one's personal sense gratification. If one accepts something without attachment and accepts it because it is related to Krishna, one's renunciation is called yuktam vairagyam. Whatever is favorable for the rendering of service to the Lord should be accepted and should not be rejected as a material thing. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2, 255 and 56. The Jagat should not be rejected as mithya. It is truth, and the truth is realized when everything is engaged in the service of the Lord. A flower accepted for one's sense gratification is material, but when the same flower is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a devotee, it is spiritual. Food taken and cooked for oneself is material, but food cooked for the Supreme Lord is spiritual prasad. This is a question of realization. Actually, everything is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore everything is spiritual. But those who are not advanced in proper knowledge make distinctions because of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami says that although the sun is the only light, the sunshine, which is exhibited in 7 colors, and darkness, which is the absence of sunshine, are not different from the sun. For without the existence of the sun, such differentiations cannot exist. There may be varied nomenclature because of different conditions, but they are all the sun. The Puranas therefore say, just as the illumination of a fire, which is situated in one place, is spread all over, the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Param Brahman, are spread all over this universe. Vishnu Purana 122:53. Materially, we can directly perceive the sunshine spreading itself according to different names and activities. But ultimately, the sun is one. Similarly, Sarvam Kahag Idam Brahma. Everything is an expansion of the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is everything, and he is one without differentiation. There is no existence separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is everyone okay? It's on one hand, it's a very simple concept, but as we were discussing before, because in the material condition of life, we're conditioned to think in terms of distinctions and differentiations. So it's sometimes difficult for the material mind to accept these concepts. But as soon as one surrenders to Krishna and realizes that everything is Krishna, everything is Krishna's, and therefore everything is Krishna. But at the same time, even though Krishna is everything, everything is not Krishna, because his energies are subsets of himself and therefore don't contain everything that makes up Krishna. This is Lord Shiva continues, text 9. Those who are known as impersonalist Vedantists regard you as the impersonal Brahman. Others, known as Mimamsaka, philosophers, regard you as religion. The Sankhya philosophers regard you as the transcendental person who is beyond Prakriti and Purusha, and who is the controller of even the demigods. The followers of the codes of devotional service, known as the Pancharatras, regard you as being endowed with 9 different potencies. And the Patanjali philosophers, the followers of Patanjali Muni, regard you as the supreme independent personality of Godhead, who has no equal or superior. O my Lord, I, who am considered to be the best of the demigods, and Lord Brahma and the great rishis, headed by Maharishi, are born of the mode of goodness. Nonetheless, we are bewildered by your illusory energy and cannot understand what this creation is. Aside from us, what is to be said of others, like the demons and human beings, who are in the base modes of material nature, Rajaguna and Tamaguna? How will they know you? Report. Factually speaking, even those who are situated in the material mode of goodness cannot understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then is to be said of those who are situated in Rajaguna and Tamaguna, the base qualities of material nature? How can we even imagine the Supreme Personality of Godhead? There are so many philosophers trying to understand the absolute truth, but since they are situated in the base qualities of material nature and are addicted to so many bad habits like drinking, meat-eating, illicit sex, and gambling, how can they conceive of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? For them, it is impossible. For the present day, the Panchararita Vidhi is For the present day, the Pancharadrika Vidhi, as enunciated by Narada Muni, is the only hope. Srila Rupa Goswami, therefore, has quoted the following verse from the Brahma Yamana. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 101. Those who are very advanced in knowledge and situated in the modes of goodness follow the Vedic instructions of the Shruti and Smriti and other religious scriptures, including the Panchatatrika Vidhi. Without understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this way, one only creates a disturbance. In this age of Kali, so many gurus have sprung up, and because they do not refer to the Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Panchariti Vidhi, they are creating a great disturbance in the world in regard to understanding the absolute truth. However, those who follow the Pancharadriki Vidhi under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, can understand the absolute truth. It is said, Pancharatrasya Krishnaya Vaktatu Bhagavat Swaram. The Pancharatram system is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just like Bhagavad Gita. Vasudeva Sarana Vidhuragas Anjanashida. The truth can be understood only by one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Vasudeva. Then quoting, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Only those who have surrendered to the lotus feet of Vasudeva can understand the absolute truth. By rendering devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Bhagavatam 1:2-7. Therefore, Vasudeva Bhagavan Sri Krishna personally teaches in Bhagavad Gita, Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 1866. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. Bhagavad Gita 1855. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not properly understood even by Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, what to speak of others, but he can be understood by the process of bhakti yoga. If one practices bhakti yoga by taking shelter of Vasudeva, Krishna, simply by hearing Vasudeva speak about himself, one can understand everything about him. Indeed, one can understand him completely. Samagram, samagram. So Lord Shiva is being highly philosophical at this point. And all this wonderful information, all these different quotes given by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada are excellent material for when you're trying to help someone who has been contaminated by the Mayavadi philosophy, to help them understand what is the actual truth, the actual situation. And for the devotee, this is just all makes sense. It's just, yeah, of course, that's the way it is. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything's coming from him. He's the source of everything. I'm his part and parcel. My position is that I'm the dominated spiritual spark of the Supreme Spiritual Spark, Shri Krishna. And my function is to engage in loving devotional service unto him. And in that way, I am actually complete and whole and fully satisfied. And all of these truths that are being laid out so carefully and precisely by Lord Shiva here are just automatically understood by the devotee. There's no problem. But if one is contaminated with enviousness of the Supreme Lord within one's heart, it makes these concepts very difficult to accept and to understand. And that's why in this, when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada first came, especially when he first arrived in America, there had been so much of this influence by the Mayavadi yogis and philosophers that he was very careful to deal with it in a very methodical and well-documented way, as we're reading here in these purports. Text 11. My Lord, you are the supreme knowledge personified. You know everything about this creation and its beginning, maintenance, and annihilation. And you know all the endeavors made by the living entities, by which they are either implicated in this material world or liberated from it. As the air enters the vast sky, and also enters the bodies of all moving and non-moving entities, you are present everywhere, and therefore you are the knower of all. Purport. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, I worship the personality of Godhead Govinda, who by his plenary portion, by one of his plenary portions enters the existence of every universe and every atomic particle, and thus manifests his infinite energy unlimitedly throughout the material creation. Brahma Samhita 535. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure, and who embodies the ecstatic potencies, Hladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form, and her imbued and Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form, and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. Brahma Samhita 537. Although Govinda is always present in his abode, Goloka eva nivashati, he is simultaneously present everywhere. Nothing is unknown to him, and nothing can be hidden from him. The example given here compares the Lord to the air, which is within the vast sky and within every body, but still is different from everything. Text 12. My Lord, I have seen all kinds of incarnations you have exhibited by your transcendental qualities. And now that you have and now that you have appeared as a beautiful young woman, I wish to see that form of your lordship. Purport. When Lord Shiva approached Lord Vishnu inquired the purpose of Lord Shiva's coming there. Now Lord Shiva discloses his desire. He wanted to see the recent incarnation of Mohinī-mūrti, which Lord Vishnu had assumed to distribute the nectar generated from the churning of the ocean of milk. So from these early prayers of Lord Shiva, we're given a glimpse into his advanced spiritual realizations and conceptions and his very intimate relationship with Krishna as a loving servant. And this all acts as background information, because now he's going to ask to see the Mohinī-mūrti incarnation of the Lord. Krishna has this way of teaching by the examples of others. If you think back to, what canto was that we were in? Was it in the 7th canto? When Narada Muni was trying to speak to, which king was it? I can't remember. But anyway, he spoke, he started telling this story. And he told this story about this other king that had this certain consciousness that was causing him problems. And he did it that way because he knew that if he just came out and, said to the king, come on, you're in Maya, your consciousness is nonsense right now. His false ego wouldn't let him accept it. And so therefore he goes through this whole process of giving this story about this other king so that he could relate to the lesson being taught there. And so similarly, Krishna does these kind of things throughout the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, is that he has his different devotees do different things at different times under different circumstances so that we can learn the lessons that are taught in those different circumstances. And because the false ego has this tendency to try to feel superior to everyone else, then by seeing these other people make these mistakes, and the false ego of ours saying, oh, I wouldn't do that, right? Whatever. When it's somebody else making that blunder, engaging in that misconception, it's easier for us to see it and accept it as a problem, and then try to and actually look and see if we have that same thing going on in our own consciousness. So Lord Shiva is the most renounced entity in the universe. Even so, more so than Lord Brahma. If you recall, even Lord Brahma was attracted by the beauty of his daughter and was trying to engage in sexual relationships with his daughter and embarrassed himself in that way. But Lord Shiva has never been embarrassed by lusty desires up to this point. And so now Lord Shiva is often thought of by a lot of people as the being equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now, due to Krishna's desire, he's going to create a situation where we can see that even Lord Shiva can be bewildered by the illusory energy of Krishna and be totally captivated and controlled by lusty desires. And then that helps us in knowing, though, if even Shiva can be captivated by Maya, then what chance do I have? I have no chance of overcoming Maya without just taking complete shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, depending on his mercy. And that's what this next pastime is all about, to help drive home that lesson to all of us. Text 13. My Lord, we have come here desiring to see that form of your lordship, which you showed to the demons to captivate them completely, and in this way enable the demigods to drink nectar. I am very eager to see that form. Sukadeva Goswami said, when Lord Vishnu was thus requested by Lord Shiva, who carries a trident in his hand, he smiled with gravity and replied to Lord Shiva as follows. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is known as Yogeshvara. Yata Yogeshvara Krishna. Mystic yogis want to acquire some power by practicing their yoga system. But Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is known as the Supreme Lord of all mystic power. Lord Shiva wanted to see the Mohinī-mūrti, which was captivating the entire world. And Lord Vishnu was gravely thinking how to captivate Lord Shiva also. Therefore the word Bhava Gambiram is used here. The illusory material energy is represented by Durga Devi, who is the wife of Girisha, or Lord Shiva. Durga Devi could not captivate Lord Shiva's mind, but now Lord Shiva wanted to see Lord Vishnu's feminine form. Lord Vishnu, by his mystic power, would assume a form that would captivate even Lord Shiva. Therefore, Lord Vishnu was grave and, at the same time, smiling. Krishna's always having fun. Yeah. He's always enjoying his relationships with his devotees. 15. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, when the demons took away the jug of nectar, I assumed the form of a beautiful woman to bewilder them by directly cheating them, and thus to act in the interest of the demigods. Purport. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead assumed the form of the beautiful woman Mohinī-mūrti, the demons were certainly captivated, but the demigods present were not. In other words, those who maintain a demoniac mentality are bewildered by the beauty of a woman, but those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness, or even those on the platform of goodness, are not bewildered. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knew that because Lord Shiva is not an ordinary person, he cannot be bewildered even by the most beautiful woman. Cupid himself tried to invoke Lord Shiva's lusty desires in the presence of Parvati, but Lord Shiva was never agitated, Rather, the blazing fire from Lord Shiva's eyes turned Cupid to ashes. Therefore, Lord Vishnu had to think twice about what kind of beautiful form would bewilder even Lord Shiva. Consequently, he was smiling gravely, as stated in the previous verse. A beautiful woman generally cannot induce Lord Shiva to be lusty, but Lord Vishnu was considering whether there was any form of woman who can enchant him. So the challenge has been offered and accepted. Lord Shiva says, let's see if you can entice me, Lord Vishnu. O best of the demigods, I shall now show you my form that was very much appreciated by those who are lusty. Since you want to see that form, I shall reveal it in your presence. Purport. Lord Shiva's desiring to see Lord Vishnu reveal the most attractive and beautiful form of a woman was certainly a joking affair. Lord Shiva knew that he could not be agitated by any so-called beautiful woman. The Daityas may have been bewildered, he thought, but since even the demigods could not be agitated, what to speak of me, who am the best of all the demigods? However, because Lord Shiva wanted to see Lord Vishnu's form as a woman, Lord Vishnu decided to impersonate a woman and show him a form that would immediately put him in an ocean of lusty desires. In effect, therefore, Lord Vishnu told Lord Shiva, I will show you my form as a woman, and if you become agitated by lusty desires, do not blame me. The attractive features of a woman are appreciated by those who are affected by lusty desires. But those who are above such desires, who are on the platform of Krishna consciousness, are very difficult to bewilder. Nonetheless, by the supreme desire of the personality of Godhead, everything can be done. This was to be the test of whether Lord Shiva could remain unagitated. So this is also a nice point, is that the person who is realizing that I'm not the body is not going to be attracted by any of the forms of this world. Why? Because he knows I'm not a material body. These material things are not going to satisfy me. So even though there may be some superficial attraction, it won't be enough to captivate that person. And Prabhupada put it very nicely in one of his lectures. He was talking about, in that particular lecture, he was talking about how the mind is very devious and the mind is always trying to find ways to criticize the pure devotee as an excuse not to surrender to Krishna. And so therefore the mind will always be presenting things, in ways of criticizing the devotee and Krishna and his representative, and as a means of not needing to surrender. And he says, so even though these things will appear, he says, you don't have to focus on it. Just realize that they're going to pass. If you just let them go, they'll pass through. It's like the river flowing by. If there's some stick or something in the ocean, some undesirable thing floating by in the water, just wait a moment and it'll go away. And you don't have to be disturbed by it. You don't have to let your life be changed by it. But if you focus on it, if you're in the bodily conception of life, and you're thinking that you're going to find some pleasure in exploiting that form, then you are subject to being captivated by it and controlled by it. When one intellectually thinks about the material body, and that it's just this mess of blood and bone and pus and stool and urine and all these undesirable things, but just this thin coating of skin shaped in a certain way, somehow attracts the mind. It somehow attracts, and it somehow attracts so strongly that people do the most ridiculous things and cause themselves so much grief because of it. And Lord Shiva is feeling a little proud that he's never been captivated by any material form, by any kind of body, there's anything like that. It's just, he's always very grave and very sober. And when Cupid tried to come and captivate him with lusty desires, the result was that Cupid got burnt to ashes instead of Lord Shiva being harmed. It was the other way around. So Lord Vishnu wants to, he says, okay, you want to challenge me? You want to see if I can captivate you the way I've captivated everyone else in the material world? Let's have a little game here. Text 17. Sukadeva Goswami continued, after speaking in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, immediately disappeared, and Lord Shiva remained there with Uma, looking for him all around with moving eyes. Thereafter, in a nice forest nearby, full of trees with reddish-pink leaves and varieties of flowers, Lord Shiva saw a beautiful woman playing with a ball. Her hips were covered with a shining sari and ornamented with a belt. Because the ball was falling down and bouncing up, as she played with it, her breast trembled, and because of the weight of these breasts and her heavy flower garlands, her waist appeared to be all but breaking at every step, as her two soft feet, which were reddish like coral, moved here and there. The woman's face was decorated by broad, beautiful, restless eyes, which moved as the ball bounced here and there from her hand. The two brilliant earrings on her ears decorated her shining cheeks like bluish reflections, and her hair scattered on her face made her even more beautiful to see. As she played with the ball, the sari covering her body became loose, and her hair scattered. She tried to bind her hair with her beautiful left hand, and at the same time she played with the ball by striking it with her right hand. This was so attractive that the Supreme Lord, by his internal potency, in this way captivated everyone. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 7:14, it is said, Daivihi esha guna mayi mama mamaya duryatyaha. The external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is extremely strong. Indeed, everyone is fully captivated by her activities. Lord Shambhu, Shiva, was not to be captivated by the external potency, but because Lord Vishnu wanted to captivate him also, he exhibited his internal potency to act in the way that his external potency acts to captivate ordinary living entities. Lord Vishnu can captivate anyone, even such a strong personality as Lord Shambhu. So you see the difference? Lord Shiva is not actually being attracted by Krishna's external energy. He's being attracted by Krishna's internal energy. 22. While Lord Shiva observed the beautiful woman playing with the ball, she sometimes glanced at him and slightly smiled in bashfulness. As he looked at the beautiful woman and she watched him, he forgot both himself and Uma, his most beautiful wife, as well as his associates nearby. Purport. The material bondage of this world is that a beautiful woman can captivate a handsome man, and that a handsome man can captivate a beautiful woman. Such are the affairs that began when Lord Shiva observed the beautiful girl playing with the ball. In such activities, the influence of Cupid is very prominent. As both parties move their eyebrows and glance at one another, their lusty desires increase more and more. Such reciprocations of lusty desire took place between Lord Shiva and the beautiful woman, even though Uma and Lord Shiva's associates were by Lord Shiva's side. Such is the attraction between man and woman in the material world. Lord Shiva was supposed to be above all this attraction, but he was victimized by the captivating power of Lord Vishnu. Rishabdev thus explains the nature of lusty attraction. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and the female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. Bhagavatam 5.5.8. When a man and a woman exchange feelings of lust, both of them are victimized, and thus they are bound to this material world in various ways. I think we'll stop there. Almost out of time.
That went quick.
There was a lot of heavy philosophy in the beginning there.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions or comments or observations they want to?
Does that mean, because when he captivated Shiva, he was using his internal potency. Does that mean it was his external potency when he captivated the demons? Or was it still his internal potency because it was...
No, it was his internal potency.
Okay. But somehow or other, the demigods weren't captivated by his internal potency.
Because it was Krishna's will that they weren't.
Okay.
Right? And that's going to be the whole lesson of this chapter, is that it's only by Krishna's mercy that we can be, we're always in illusion, okay? We're either in the illusion that we're in this material body and that everything in relation to this body is mine, or we're in the illusion of some relationship with Krishna. I call it an illusion because it's impossible to know Krishna in full. So you take the residents of Vrindavan, they're not aware that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's just their best friend. He's just the most beautiful boy. He's just the most wonderful child. He's just the most wonderful lover. He's just the best, companion to have when you're out herding the cows. So they're in the illusion that, the cowherd boys are in the illusion that, hey, Krishna's my equal, right? I can wrestle with Krishna and sometimes I'm going to beat him, right? Sometimes they'll make different teams, and some guys will be on Balaram's team, some guys will be on Krishna's team. They wrestle, they fight, they do different things, have different games. Sometimes Krishna's team wins, sometimes Balaram's teams win. Sometimes they have to carry Krishna on their shoulders. Sometimes Krishna has to carry them on his shoulders, right? They're in the illusion that Krishna is just a wonderful companion, right? Then the gopis are just madly in love with Krishna as the most beautiful young Paramar, right? And Mother Yasoda is thinking, oh, this is my dear child, and I have to raise him, and I have to feed him, or he's going to starve to death, and I have to chastise him, or he's going to grow up to be a punk, So you're always in some kind of illusion, but you're either in an internal illusion with Krishna, or you're in an external illusion of Krishna. So we're always in some type of illusory relationship with Krishna because it's impossible to know Krishna in full. It's beyond us. It's just like Prabhupada gave the example of he had a piece of candy that someone had offered him at the gathering, and it was all wrapped up in a paper wrapper. And he says, all right, this candy is wrapped up in this paper. This paper is big enough to cover the candy, right? But the candy can't cover the wrapper because the candy's smaller than the wrapper, right? The wrapper is too big. Candy can't cover it. So it's the same kind of thing. Krishna's everything. Krishna is inconceivably everything. So you can never conceive of Krishna's fullness and Krishna in full. So, and if you remember at the beginning of this chapter when the demigods first approached and they were asking to go see Lord Vishnu, and when they wanted to see him to try to make a solution to the demons being more powerful than when he first appeared in his full glory, he was so effulgent that they couldn't see anything else. They couldn't see the land, they couldn't see the sky, they couldn't see themselves. They were just so overwhelmed just by the presence of Krishna that they were just totally illusioned. They couldn't see anything. They were just overwhelmed.
Drink.
Drink. And then there's that nice prayer in the Upanishad, Sri Upanishad, where the devotee prays for Krishna to limit his effulgence so that he can actually see his beautiful face. And that's kind of what's going on. And that's what Vishnu did. Remember, he calmed everything down, and then the devotees could see him, and then they could relate to him, and they could see how beautiful he was. Then when they were actually out there churning, after he had delivered the mountain and everything, and they couldn't get it done, then Lord Vishnu personally took Vasuki and did the churning to create the nectar. He's just one of the boys, right, out there churning away and doing the same thing they were. They were just seeing him as basically just like themselves, only a little bit better. So it's still Krishna's internal potency, but whereas Durga Devi, Maya, external energy, is an inferior energy. And we're so small and insignificant that we easily get covered up by even the external energy, what to speak of the internal energy.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna is pretty amazing. Krishna Prastaya Bhutava Shati Sira Swarupananda Maham Sahite Namene
Krishna Pranaya Krishna Prastaya Śrīmad
Namasira Swarupananda Namaham Sarananda Murakarana Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastaya Brahmacharya Nivasesha Sunyavadi Vastatya Deshatarane Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade Gaur Bhakta
Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Jaya Shri Govinda Gopinatha Dana Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Guru Hari Bol.